Thank you very much for staying on the marketplace. Welcome back. Now, as banks grapple with a recapitalization deadline of December 31, 2018, experts are pushing the National Insurance Commission to increase the capital to weed out the huge numbers in the insurance industry. The director of Cass Johnson, a leading insurance company in South Africa, Bruce Saad, says it will consolidate the industry and aid penetration. He was speaking ahead of the Bank Assurance Conference slated for the 14th and 15th of this month, supported by Joy Business.
Generally speaking, what I have seen is that in a market where the capital requirements are increased, whether for banks or for insurers, it tends to consolidate the industry. So from having, let's call it 100 insurers or 100 banks, you have 10 insurers, 10 banks. What that means is that you have the banking population is more easily reached, because instead of having to go after, instead of having to go after the entire population through 100 banks, you can market to the population through 5 banks or 10 banks or through 10 insurers. And the key thing about that is that a consolidated industry, which is often driven by capitalization, means that you get economies of scale from a marketing point of view, because insurance has a massive marketing problem. It needs to be marketed. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to buy insurance today. No one does that. What people need is they need to be approached by a trusted partner, and that's often a bank. Not always, but often a bank. And yeah, so capital requirements will drive consolidation. Consolidation will mean there's more capital in fewer insurers, in fewer banks, which means they can spend their capital more cost effectively to reach customers with insurance offers.
Now, some bank customers have expressed mixed reactions on the impact of the new capital requirement on banking operations in the country. The Central Bank of Ghana has set the minimum capital requirement at 400 million Ghana cedis, and some credit consultants are of the view that only 3 out of 34 banks currently in operation are in a position to meet the new capital requirement. Joy Business has been speaking with some customers in Accra and has brought you this one.
So long as the recapitalization is going to make sure that the country is going to, the banks are going to be able to take on bigger transactions, that is good. That is what the country needs. We should move away from where if you go to a bank and you are even looking for $5 million, credit officers or bank managers become scared of it. We should be able to, as a country, to be able to do bigger deals. And you can only do that when the banks are very strong financially. And that is it doesn't make sense to have about 30 or 40 banks when none of them, or majority of the banks, are not in a position to do bigger deals. If you increase the threshold, that does not mean you are also neglecting those in the downside of the business. A comprehensive program to take care of everybody on board. The branches that these banks are going to have, it will be nationwide. Everybody is going to be on board, so it affects nothing. It is a good thing for the country. People must explain the issues very well. Let society know that where we have gotten to as a country, if you are doing business in Ghana, you are not doing business only in Ghana, you are competing with somebody in China who is having a lot of money to compete with. Let us encourage, let us push our banks to have that minimum threshold. Push it up. I was even thinking they will push it to 1 billion.
I'm not tempted to withdraw my money to save with these banks, but I believe that these banks should go in for the necessary measure and then mobilization to be equipped on these buckets. I believe when it's left with only 3 banks, there'll be a lot of inefficiencies in the system. Currently, with these several banks, we still find ourselves being served not to the best of standards. And getting 3 banks along the line will cause a whole lot of inadequacies. But I think it's a good step for the bank, the BOG, to make. But I think the banks also need to find time and then find funds and then brace up this opportunity. But 3 banks won't serve Ghana well. I believe they need to do something about it.
If that's the case, I don't think it's a good idea, because even looking at the many banks we have now, you go to the banks and you find a long queue, a lot of customers, and even that, you go there and take a long time before you leave. So if this thing is going to happen and it's going to remain only 3 banks, I don't think it's a good idea. I think they should see how best they will reduce what they have issued now, so that we can have, even if not all the banks, but we can have even minimum bank that can serve all of us. If my bank will suffer that consequences, I don't see the reason why I should be keeping my money there. Then I should go and withdraw my money and take it to the bank that will survive.
Probably my bank may not be able to, stand the test of time. But then if it could be reduced a bit, I think some banks can survive. But I'm not willing to withdraw my funds. I mean, I still want to keep my funds with them because, I mean, they are giving me the service that I want. So, but I mean, on the other hand, if recapitalization is going to put them out of business, I have no choice than to, take my funds from them.
Those are some mixed views of a section of the public with regards to the setting of the new minimum capital requirement of 400 million Ghana cedis by the central bank. Moving on, the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, together with the Pan-African Chamber of Commerce, has opened the African Prosperity Conference here in Accra. The two-day conference has brought together various chambers of commerce across the continent to deliberate on best ways to facilitate the implementation of the continental free trade area in Africa. Now, Charles Aite has been attending the conference and is joining us live now from the Kempinski Hotel with some updates. Hello, Charles.
We're currently here at the Kempinski Hotel, where the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry is, beginning its African Prosperity Conference 2017. And the main objective of this very conference is to bring together various African chambers of commerce to, discuss pertinent issues that, of course, are of direct impact on the African economy, top of which happens to do with the Continental Free Trade Agreement. And we do have here with us the guest speaker, who also is the president of the Chamber of Commerce. Nana Danka was the first to help us understand the remits of this very conference today. Many thanks for joining us on Marketplace to help us understand how relevant the African Prosperity Conference is today.
Thank you, my brother. By rotation, Ghana is the president of the Pan-African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and of course, my good self. I also double as the Ghana president of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Basically, the topic is, or the theme, prosperity for Africa, and on three key things. We want to trade among ourselves, even though we have limited percentage of trade levels among ourselves, but we think as one people, we can do more. If you go to Europe, you go to America, they do so. But over here, for our trade among Americans, Europeans, and what have you, they have the numbers in terms of percentage. But for ourselves, it's only about 12%. We think that we can go higher and further to amass wealth for ourselves. And one is about industrialization. If you're able to industrialize. If you don't industrialize, what are you going to trade among ourselves? So Africa must industrialize well.
All right, but okay.
Two, we have to get the needed infrastructure in place for us to do this trade and do it well. And the third one is the trade facilitation. If you just want to travel from Ghana or send goods from Ghana to any other, even ECOWAS countries, it becomes a problem, either by sea, by road, or by air. By air, for example, if you want to go from Ghana to Cape Verde, it's a problem. We cannot go direct. From Ghana to even Gambia, it's a problem. So we need to industrialize. We need to have enough infrastructure in place, and we need to improve on our trade facilitation. And if you're able to do that, then we say we are on the road to prosperity.
But speaking about the Continental Free Trade Agreement, we do know that it's going to be passed somewhere by the end of this year. Should it be passed, how much of a percentage do you think that continental trade within African countries could increase from, you said, 12 to 20%? Are you expecting it to increase when it's been passed?
Yes, please. Right. We are hoping that we are advocates, even though various governments are going to pass sign that agreement on behalf of all of us, and the private sector, of course, is the engine of growth, And for that matter, we are saying that the trade for now is between 12 and 20. The first year, if we put ourselves together well, we are going to increase from 20% to 50%. And that is a huge milestone, and we hope that if you're able to do that, there will be more improvement on employment for our people. The economic lifestyle of our people will also change, and we hope to achieve the best for ourselves so far as Africa is concerned. And that's why we are saying it is the way to create wealth and prosper.
Finally, before we let you go, this is a conference that has seen various chambers of commerce here in Africa converge to find out the best ways to do trade amongst themselves. What are you picking for most of them in terms of best practices?
Seriously, we have various chambers of commerce. In terms of we have West Africa, that's the Federation of West African Chambers of Commerce, consists of about 15 countries. You go to the south, they are about close to 13. We have the north, we have the north, south, east, and west, and central. So to speak, we have our office in Addis, where I have my office, and we are trying to harmonize to see how we can relate very well with our various governments and to take the lead as a private sector to improve. For example, in Ghana and almost all the other countries, the governments employ only, for Ghana, for example, it's about 6% for government and about 94% for private sector. If you go to Nigeria, same. The margin is not that different. And looking at the continent as a whole, we believe that with the support to the various governments and with AU and United Nations and the European Union that has also given us the needed support, we'll make sure that taking credits on a shorter period to industrialize is not possible. So what are we doing? Make sure that the tenure of our loans will be extended between 7 to 10 years. The interest rates also be brought down, and then also thinking about having a common currency. Right now, within the sub-region in West Africa, we are going to have, by next year, first quarter, we're going to have the C-Link, that is the sea, what they call transport, going to be improved drastically. And when that happens, it will make trade facilitation very easy to support what the various governments are also putting in place to make and harmonize our businesses and to improve ourselves.
All right, thank you very much, Nana Kawosu. He is the president of the Ghana Chamber of Commerce. We shall be following closely as the conference elapses. This is the very first session, actually, as it brings various chambers of commerce together here at the Kempinski Hotel to deliberate more on how best to ensure that the common trade facilitation agreement negotiation is fast-tracked and, of course, passed by the end of this year. We shall be following closely these developments to give you updates as and when we do have them.
Thank you very much, Charles Aite, for that report. Let's now cross over to the Ashanti region, where small-scale miners are calling on government to reconsider its decision not to allow them to mine. The group has dissociated themselves from illegal miners, maintaining that they possess required licenses to undertake their work. Government, in a bid to clamp down on illegal mining activities, put a ban on small-scale mining with the aim of regularizing its operations. But almost 7 months after the ban, Small Scale Miners Association say it is unable to take care of their families. Correspondent Prince Appiah has been speaking with the executive member and spokesperson of the association, Mike Gizo.
A three ultimatum said that we should put a hold to our mining activities. We did that, and we are given 1 month to move all our mining equipment for the various sites of operations. We spoke to our members and we also complied with that. In as much as we were aggrieved and we did not support that particular move, we thought it wise, as patriotic as we are, to talk to our members and also do our very best, not considering the untold hardship that we'll be going through, to comply as well. Now the 6-month suspension has elapsed. The best government could do is to come out, roll out whatever has been tabled, that is a roadmap, to come out and say that the people with the requisite documents, this day or that day, go back to your mining sites and do the work that is expected of you. We've waited and waited. We've had series of engagements, some yielding dividends, some not yielding dividends. And we thought that as Ashanti regional small-scale miners, we should also pour our grievances for all Ghanaians and the entire world to know the untold hardship that we are going through. The academic year has just started. As I talk to you now, our walls are in the house. Now we don't even have money to feed our wives and children. The chain of employment that small-scale mining creates has been severely affected. Filling stations are folding up. Fuel station attendants have been laid off. Artisans at Swami Magazine, Abelempe and Abusokai, they are found wanting. They don't know what to do next. Jewelers, goldsmiths, gold buyers have all been affected. Even market women have been affected. And as a country, we are losing a lot because this is creating a balance of payment deficit. Because we are always importing and never exporting. When we were in business, foreign currency was coming in to purchase the gold. In 2015, small-scale mining contributed 34% of total gold production, including all the large-scale concessions. In 2016, we contributed 31% of total gold production. So a sector that produces about 1.2 million ounces a year cannot be affected in such a manner. What we are saying is that we support government's fight against Galamsey. We have always been against Galamsey. But we are pleading to government and those who matters that we've cooperated well enough, and to us respect is reciprocal. As we give it out, we are expecting to receive it from the appropriate authorities.
So on the marketplace, let's now pause here for an investment tip.
Investment Tips is brought to you by Daffing Finance, Deposits, Investments, Borrowings and Advisory.
It is important to know that the longer you invest, the more money you're going to make. Starting your investment journey at an earlier age would enable you to accumulate more money because of the compounding rates of return. You've got a long way to go. Stay on the path. It's okay to stray, but it's always better to plan your route, including preparing for detours and roadblocks.
Investment Tips was brought to you by Daffing Finance, Deposits, Investments, Borrowings and Advisory.
Thanks for staying. Welcome back to the marketplace. Now, the IMF says the country might already be benefiting from an extension of the IMF program. The Washington-based lender has indicated the development demonstrates government's commitment to fiscal prudence. Now, what does the average Ghanaian make of all these technical jargons? Kuko Apia has been finding out more.
The IMF approved government's request to extend the program by 1 year. The $916 million package was initially given to government to help inject some life into the country's ailing economy. However, the deal has not come without conditions: a freeze on government spending in the public sector and a net freeze on employment in the public sector. So how does all this affect the average Ghanaian? So in 2015, government secured a $940 million IMF deal. Now, the deal was supposed to bail Ghana out of its ailing economy, and since then we haven't really heard that much. But recently we've been hearing things like extended line of credit. So today we're in Accra Central to find out from the average Ghanaian, what does the IMF deal really mean to them?
Okay, it's like International Monetary Fund, right? It doesn't affect me much, but as it goes, IMF, they take loans from other sectors, like the other countries, right? So it's still a benefit from we the Ghanaians, especially the youth. At least, I'm a jobless guy now, but at least I have something I do. It should have at least create something like for me to do, and then like an employment.
Yeah, unless we send it to court. We send it to court, know what you find it, the money from, what you know the reason. It will affect tax very, very, very soon. We don't like that. So Ghana is very, very serious with it. Right now we don't have any money at all. So if we find out to get that money.
I don't see the use. It hasn't helped pay our children's school fees. So as for me, I don't see the use of the money.
IMF, I don't really know about IMF. For instance, it can help us, but I don't know about it.
So we've spoken to Ghanaians to find out what they think about the IMF or what comes to mind when they hear IMF bailout. Now we're going to speak to a financial expert, Charles Mensah, to find out exactly what it is and how it affects us, the average Ghanaians.
Money, money, money.
We're here with financial consultant Mr. Charles Mensah to get a very basic breakdown of what the IMF bailout was about and how it affects the average Ghanaian, which is you and I.
If it is that you've asked for a loan facility from a bank and your sales or your profits are not coming the way you had projected, it's in the light that you go to the bank and say, I want to have some discussion with you to extend the repayment period beyond 12 months to 16 months to 18 months. When you do that, it's much better than the people looking up to you to service the debt, and then when the time comes, you will be pussyfooting, and that can create credibility problem. So it's good that you review as time goes, and then you make clear to the banker that, look, I'm having a challenge, but I have a potential. Help me clear the challenge.
So what does this mean for the pockets of the average Ghanaian?
Those in the private sector, especially when you have to borrow. If you notice, the treasury rate over time has been going down. It means that something's happening. It means that the interest rate for the ordinary private sector business person is going to go down. Now, when these things are going down, it means that profitability will go up, because hitherto the cost of servicing your debt with the bankers were getting higher and higher, and those affecting your profits. So once something positive is happening in the system, the currency, the forex, is equally stable over a period of time. So it's helping them. Hitherto, there was a panic in the system. So when you hear every morning you want to know the forex, you want to buy dollars to store, to keep, you are worried. But now there's that element of peace in terms of the financial stability side.
With us, you'd have learned a few things. One is that the IMF bailout was basically a loan given to government to inject some money into our ailing economy. And two is that the extended line of credit is to extend the period of time in which government will use to pay that money back. Now you know a few things about the IMF bailout, the extended line of credit, and what that means for the average Ghanaian like myself. Reporting for Joy Business, this is Kukwa Apia.
Obviously, a lot more that we need to learn about the IMF bailout program, and that was Kuku Apia. And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace. Thanks so much for being with us. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Have a good afternoon.